you have to find these deals that where there's a component of value add. If you can raise the rents, if you can add rubs, if you can add fees on, if you can lower expenses, that's what you're looking to do. And unfortunately, in this type of market, you're paying a little bit more than what you would normally do. So you really have to find out what the value adds are. If there's no value adds in a deal, you're going to struggle.
My name is Jamie Gruber. I'm the host of our Multifamily and More virtual meetup. It's an interactive podcast. The idea here is not just to be a broadcast, but to get people interacting with our guests. And tonight we have one hell of a guest. So I'm excited about this. This guy's made a huge difference in my life, like David said. So we'll get to that in a moment. Our sponsor for tonight's broadcast is CF Asset Group. Check us out, our website, cfassetgroup.com. Go on Facebook, like the page, YouTube channel where we're developing content for that. But subscribe to that. We'll have a whole bunch of stuff out there for you to really give everybody here as much value as we possibly can. The other thing is, if you're not a member of one of our meetups, so I run here the Michigan Multifamily and More group, but we've actually expanded that to 8 different cities or states. So we've got Cleveland, Minnesota, South Florida, Baltimore Metro, Tampa, Chattanooga, and as of this past week, we just opened up Salt Lake City. Again, thanks to this guy sitting right next to me and on the screen, who awesome. Connected me with somebody that's down in that area and is going to start it up. Brock, welcome aboard. So we have a bunch of different groups. Sign up for one, and we'll get you all the content we have. So tonight, how it works essentially is I'll start this off with an intro of Gino. We'll get into a couple questions that I have. Gino, like he said at the beginning, if you were here, has a PowerPoint that he had sent along. It's got a great bit of information on his first deal. So I want to get to that at some point, maybe halfway through our time together. But along the way, guys, if you have questions, throw your questions up in the chat box, comments, whatever. In fact, let's get it started with where are you? Maybe even your experience. How many units do you have? Maybe you're a beginner and you can say that, but let's get a little bit of activity in the chat box. Let me know you can hear us as well, if any issues, but questions as we go along through the night, as Gino's, dropping a bunch of information, throw them in there. I'll keep an eye on that, and I'll make sure he gets those questions and can answer them if he doesn't see them.
Yeah, that'd be great, because if you get chats, I'm going to try not to look at them too much because I really need to concentrate. So if I see chats, they distract me. So if you see a question pop up, don't be afraid to interrupt me and say, hey, listen, I got a question on this. So please keep an eye out for those questions. Okay. Okay.
So I'm going to give you your proper intro, if that's all right with you.
A proper intro. Just Gino Barbaro. That's the proper intro.
Well, that's the first 2 words I have on my intro. But Gino Barbaro, for those that have been under a rock, is an investor, a business owner, an author, and an entrepreneur. Am I allowed to say the G Daddy, or is that like trademarked by Jay?
My wife gets a little ruffles her feathers, but I said, hey, it is anonymous. Anybody can call the G Daddy the G Daddy. So you're more than welcome. I love it.
I love it. He has grown his real estate portfolio to over, it says 1,100 multifamily units. I think it's 13 now, is it not?
It's going to be 15 by the end of the month. We're closing on 240 units. So, yes.
Got to update your bio. Got to update that bio.
Yeah, I know.
He's the co-founder of Jake and Gino, as many of you know, a multifamily real estate education company, one that I have gotten a ton of value out of, including my business partner, Benoit, who's lurking out there in the shadows of this webinar. That education company offers coaching, training, and real estate founded upon their proprietary framework. And they're so true. Buy right, finance right, manage right. Those 3 things are so simple. And I love the wheelbarrow. 2 pillars with that manage right always spinning, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's the best-selling author of 2 books, Wheelbarrow Profits, which is a very good book, and Family Food and the Friars, and graduated from IPEC, Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching, which I want to start with, where he earned his designation as a certified professional coach. He currently resides in sunny St. Augustine, Florida. He's a New York expat with his beautiful wife, Julia, and his 6 very beautiful children, which I had the privilege of meeting briefly when I was down there with him. So Gino, welcome. So happy to have you. This means a ton. My heart's racing based on all that you have done for me, for Ben, for the company that we're starting. So thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Hey, listen, remember, to be able to get, you have to be able to give, right? So I love to give of my time, especially the Jake and Gino students. I always say I have the fiduciary responsibility to take care of my community. And what you're doing here is cultivating a great environment. You're getting people on who want to talk about multifamily. That's the most important thing. Let's create that environment. Let's create the place where, you know what, let's talk about deals. Let's talk about like-minded people being on, being able to ask questions and being able to champion each other. That's the most important thing.
Excellent. Yeah, we got some people commenting in here. Mary, congratulations. West Cleveland bought a duplex and a fourplex.
All right,
Seller
Mary.
financing. Awesome. Glad to
Yes.
be here. Yeah, glad to
Yes.
have you.
That's
Glad-
awesome. Congratulations.
So let's start with this, Gino. So you talk about IPEC. I don't know if the IPEC. It sounds like it would be how you would say it, but
Mhm.
the coaching that you've gotten into, and you've talked a lot in your podcasts and webinars you've done, anything else about mindset and how much you've leveled up your network and the work you've done on you, and it's such an integral part, I feel, of being an investor, like the right mindset, like who you are versus just what you're doing, right? So
Mhm.
talk to me about, if you don't mind, I guess, start with your background, your story, how you got here, which most people know, but give us the skinny on that. But then what was that transformational work that you did? Why'd you do it? What was it? And what did it mean for you?
Sure. I mean, I'll give you the 30-second overview. 1994, bought my restaurant, had it for 20 years, 22 years with my father, loved it for the first 15. 2008 comes, I've got 4 kids at the time, not making enough money, working harder, making less money, the same skill story that everyone else has. I started blaming the economy. I started blaming the president. I started blaming everybody. And then I scratched my head. I said, hold on a second. There's other people out there making millions of dollars. What are they doing that I'm not doing? So I struggled on for a couple of years. And fortunately, thank God for me, I found life coaching, Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching. It's a great school. I went to life coaching school. At the time, I was struggling because I don't know what my why was. Everyone thinks that just because they make money, they become financially free, that's going to solve all their problems. It's not going to solve all your problems. More money creates more problems if you don't know what to do with that money or how to be a steward of that money. I found out what my why was. My why ultimately was trying to help other people, which was really weird because I was stuck in the kitchen washing dishes, making $15 an hour. Who am I helping back there? And I know I had a better skill set. So being a man of faith, sitting in the kitchen, saying to myself, I'm wasting my time. I had great parents. I had a great education. What am I doing here wasting my time? So that was my driving force of, I don't want to be on my bedside because everyone says, what are people going to look at you when you're at your funeral? I don't want to be on my deathbed saying, man, I remember washing those dishes. I want to be on my deathbed saying, man, I really helped and motivated a lot of people to get out of their day, get out of their drudgery, get out of their traffic fighting, and actually learn a skill, whether it's multifamily or whether it's life coaching, to propel themselves to a better life. So that's how IPEC really helped me out. The personal development is awesome. It is all about your mindset. It really is. You can have 2 people with very similar skill sets. It's all about figuring out what your why is and then tapping into your why. Why buy multifamily? I mean, we all have different reasons. My reason was I wanted to have a lifestyle. I wanted to be able to create a business that I could scale up. And then all of a sudden, from that one little investment property, what you're doing, we had multiple streams of income. We call it multifaceted. You start creating a little property management company. You start creating a little mortgage company. You start creating a syndication company. You start creating an education company. All of a sudden, you have multiple businesses. And it's not like when I became financially free, my D-Day was March 1st of 2016. It's not like I said, I'm going to the beach. I went to the beach for 2 days. Then after that, you get bored. I'm a worker, right? I wanted to do something that was fulfilling more than anything else. That's what I wanted to do. Something that was fulfilling to me. And that's what multifamily was to me. In the beginning, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. It's a lot of work, and it will always be a lot of work. You don't want it to be sunshine and rainbows because you want to be challenged. You want to be uncomfortable to get out of that comfort zone and to continue to grow. Because when people are stuck in that rut, what is that rut? It's either being a victim or being really pissed off, and you cannot get out of that. And so what I want to do is just to push myself, get a little more comfortable every day, a little more uncomfortable. And as you get more uncomfortable, you tend to grow. So 30 seconds turned into 2 minutes. Sorry about that, but I think it
Good.
needed that intro.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you work with people on like in the somebody comes to you and say, hey, I want to learn about what you do, multifamily, everything else. How much of that time do you spend on mindset? Is that a key component of it, or do you go right into the brass tacks of how to invest?
Every person is different. Like every one of my 6 children, right? Everyone needs a little something different. I have an online training that I can share with everyone on the call. I've created on our Kajami platform right now. Basically, you have to work on mindset. You have to work on your why. You have to focusing on learning your goals. So that's an important element of it. But what we do also is in the private Facebook group, we have a lot of students on there posting and creating that environment. I said basically. So we do have to work on the mindset. That's the important thing. But a lot of students who already come to us, they already know what their why is. They're already at their last stand going, multifamily is for me. So we definitely incorporate it into the training.
Yeah. No, I think of this book, you talked about it before, this Outwitting the Devil with being a drifter, right? Somebody who who doesn't take control of their own mind, take control of their own thoughts and everything else like that. You've gone the exact opposite way with that. In fact, to the point where you, if you don't mind me, you homeschool your children, correct?
Yes, my wife does.
Tell me about the why. Why do you do that?
Well, for me, believe it or not, when my daughter, she's 19 now, she's a sophomore in college. My wife's sister did it, and then I did it. For me, it was great. I was actually learning the faith again. I was doing religion with her in the morning, so it was awesome. I would spend an hour before I went to the restaurant, and I would do school with them. And, fast forward to today, I spend 20, 30 minutes before I start work. We all come over here. We hang out. We do a little reading together. So for me, it's all about family, and it's great because my kids play together. It's just a great experience, right? I want to teach my kids about money. I want to teach my kids about relationships. I want them to have the emotional intelligence that you need that they don't teach in school. So for me, that's why it was really important more than anything else. And to be honest with you, it is lifestyle too, because if we want to take a week off, I don't have a schedule. If they've got to go to gymnastics 11 in the morning like today, there's no school. We'll do school later on in the afternoon. So for us, it afforded me a level of freedom. And it's also an entrepreneurial mindset because there's no schedule. You make your own schedule. You create your own life. So which is what I love about it. Can you hear me?
Yep. Now I can.
Good.
Yep. Gotcha. We should be good. I think we're good.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting a little bit of choppiness on my end, but that's my connection, not yours. One other thing on mindset, I guess maybe it's kind of countercultural, but talk to me about your view on kind of the old staples around money. So retirement accounts, 401ks, all of that. Like, how have you leveraged those? Because I know you had retirement accounts at one point, maybe you still do, but how have you leveraged those? What's your general viewpoint? Maybe how have you utilized those to build your fortune?
It's a great question. Back in 2008, I read the book Killing Sacred Cows by Garrett Gunderson. I read it, didn't really give it a second thought. Okay, book. I read it about a year ago. I was like, holy crap, I'm doing all this stuff now. I don't know what happened. Read the book Killing Sacred Cows. We podcasted Garrett Gunderson. Why would anybody want to do a 401k? You're getting into business with the government, basically. You're giving them their money for the next 30 years. It's in a 401k account that's locked away. You can't touch it until you're 59 and a half. I blew mine up 3 years ago. I had $100,000 in it, blew it up, took the $10,000 penalty with cost segregation. I didn't pay any federal taxes. That money went into a deal, didn't go into a car, didn't go into a vacation. It went into a deal. Now, I don't recommend that for everybody. Talk to a financial advisor, but for me, it was the best way to get that money. Now, if you're on that path, just remember one thing: 401ks, they can be good if your company's matching it and the money's there. But my problem is the lost opportunity cost. You will not be able to touch that money for the next 25 to 30 years. I don't like that. I want to have my money today. I want to be able to invest my own money today. I want to be able to control my money. So for me, it doesn't work. And I think a lot of students who have money that they can't tap it out, maybe roll it over into a solo 401k and invest that money passively, put it into a limited partnership. You can do something like that to get your feet wet, maybe do some private lending, but take control. You need to be financially savvy and take control of your financial future. Don't be a drifter. You need to learn all these skills to take control of your life.
Okay. We have a question here about mindset. So I'm working on starting my day right. What do you do to start your day on the right mindset or in the right mindset?
It's funny. I've changed my things so many different times. I get up at 7 o'clock in the morning now, usually. I try to go for a walk. If not, what I'll do is I like to get up in the morning, have a cup of coffee with my wife, come up in my room here, and I'll just pray a little with my kids for about 10 or 15 minutes. I'm really grateful. For me, it's almost like I'm playing with house money right now. So I try to really show a lot of gratitude, and I don't want to pray when things are going bad. I want to pray and be thankful. And when you start off the day with gratitude and what you're grateful for, it's like everything else just works itself into, if something goes bad that day, you're like, I have so many things to be grateful for. Try to get that exercise in. I try to eat really healthy. Try to block out time in the day to really focus on some really big tasks. Try to shut the phone off. Not, every couple hours I'll check it, but I really need to stay focused on certain things. I'm a content creator, so I've got a lot of stuff going on. So as far as mindset goes, work on yourself. In the morning is the best time. If you've got any heavy lifting objects to do, any big tasks to do, try to do them in the morning before you start your day. Because as your day goes, you're going to get decision fatigue. By the time 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock comes around, you're ready to punch out. So if you can get it done in the morning before you go to work, and the best thing is try to do something you really like in the morning. What are the favorite things you like to do? Do you like to read? Do you like to ride a bike? Do you like to walk? Do you like to swim? Try to do that in the morning. Try to start your day off with a lot of fun, and I'm sure the rest of the day will follow. Does that make sense?
Gino's frozen on my end right now. I don't know if that's the same for everybody out there, but it's been freeing up for me here. Gino, I don't know if you can still hear me.
I can hear you, yes.
Okay. All right, cool. There is one more question in here, and it was, as you've grown to 1,500 units, how do you keep your mindset with that many units, managing and not letting all of the problems get to you?
Well, I mean, that's another great question. You don't do that overnight, right? I don't have 6 kids in a year, right? It takes time. You build muscle, right? Multifamily is like having children. The first one is really difficult. You don't know what you're doing. You're out of control, and it's scary. It's exciting, but it's really scary. The second child, I don't know. You still know what you're doing, but it's okay. You've gone through one. Second one can't be that bad, right? The third one comes, now you're outnumbered. But you know what? It's exciting because you've got cash flow coming in, right? And you've got some deals done. You've got some experience. By the time the fourth child comes, you've got it down. You've got some systems going on. You're growing your business. By the time the fifth one comes, it's so much fun. And that's how it happened with me with multifamily. The first couple of deals, it was tough, right? It was very difficult. We weren't able to scale up. Had those, 200 units within the first 2 years. From there, we started really getting on our property managers, started hiring property managers and leasing agents and maintenance guys. That allowed us to scale. Now Jake runs day to day for the property manager. We have our own property management company, and we have about 40 employees. So it's those baby steps. When you first start out, you're going to start small. You're going to do a lot of the work yourself. And then as you grow, you're going to be able to hire people and help you with it. And, David Finkel is saying today, you have a choice. If you're going to be I'm a person, I'm going to do everything, and I'm going to control everything, you have to change your mindset. You have to think of yourself as an asset manager, not just a landlord. You're going to be an asset manager, and you're going to be an investor. If you can think of it that way and start scaling up, that's going to really help you out.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So real quick, I'm getting chop on my end, but I'm being told that it's just me. So you're coming through loud and clear to everybody.
Good.
Apologies to everyone else. My connection for some reason is getting a bit unstable, but we'll keep rolling. We'll figure it out. Right. We'll make it happen and move on from there. So those are all the questions I had from the group. Let me shift over if I could. I want to talk about partnership for a little bit because this was a concept that was scary to me. And in some ways still can be a little bit, selecting the right partner, managing that partnership, all of that stuff. I think the beauty of your group is that it gave me the courage and the ability to really find a partner, because Ben and I found each other in your group, but also just understand how a partnership can work really, really effectively together. Watching you and Gino, watching you and Jake, I should say. So talk to me about partnership. How does it work? Because you guys have been a really, really successful partnership and have made a huge brand out of it. How did you find each other? Why does it work? And how do you find a partner and maintain a solid partnership with somebody?
Well, great question. I've got the chat from Joe Kilmer. Joe, the only way you're going to be scale out from a landlord is to find a partner, because you can't do everything yourself. There's just not, when you have 10 or 15 or 20 units, yeah, that's fine. But as you start scaling and getting bigger, who's going to raise the capital? Who's going to run the day-to-day? Who's going to have the net worth on their balance sheet? Who's going to be, underwriting deals? Who's going to be going out and looking at these deals? There's just not enough time in the day to do it all by yourself. So Jake and I were fortunate. I met him back at the restaurant. He was a drug rep, and he was Joe, you're exactly on the 20 units. So now is the time. Your next one is going to break you out, and it's going to be a really great process. After 20 units, our first deal was 25 units. The next one was 36. So we had 60 units within 6 months of us purchasing it. We were fortunate that we had resident managers. The third one brought us to 200. So what I was saying, Jake and I met at the restaurant. He was a drug rep. What I liked about Jake, when you're looking for a partner, look for core values. You want to have very similar core values as far as integrity goes, as far as hard work goes. One thing with Jake, he's a hard worker. He's working till all times of the night. He's putting in on the weekends. And listen, I've been going since 8 o'clock this morning, so I'm the same way as him. You need to be able to both work hard and just be able to make no excuses. And as Jamie's alluded to a couple of times, we make it happen. You don't make excuses, you make it happen. The great thing I would love about partnerships is he's pushing me and I'm sort of pushing him. And we're starting a second podcast. We're going to be called Movers and Shakers, as if I didn't have enough stuff to do, right? He's like, we should do another podcast. Okay, we'll do another podcast. He's doing another podcast for Rand Capital. So partnerships are great. They can push you, they can motivate you, they can give you a lot of ideas. And listen, when you're having a tough day, you call up your partner, and your partner's supposed to be uplifting you. He's supposed to pick you up. So when you're looking for a partner, like I said, you guys can have similar skill sets, but it's always good to have, like you, Jamie, you're the one that's more outgoing, and Benoit is the more number crunching guy. So I think with Jake, it's sort of the same thing. He's more the kick the doors down kind of guy. And I am more of the, okay, let me talk to the sales guy, and let me just work with the community and work that aspect of it. So I think we complement ourselves well that way. But as you're growing, we've added other partners on. Every single deal you have can be partner specific. If you're doing a deal, make sure you have an operating agreement, make sure you fill out the responsibilities and roles. I'll give you an example. In our syndication company, there's 4 of us. And the syndication company, when you're doing a 250 unit deal, the due diligence is big. We have responsibilities for each one of us. I'll look at the insurance loss runs. I'll look at the lease reports. I will look at the bank statements. I'll look at all the other operating expenses. Jake will do something else. He'll go due diligence on the property. My partner, Mike, will look at something else. And Dylan will look at something else. So the roles and responsibilities have to be really delegated well and make sure that everyone hits them. And the great thing about it is you need to get on weekly calls. You need to be constantly communicating with your partner. I've spoken to Jake, I think 6 times today. We did a podcast today too. And I've spoken to him 5 or 6 other times. And that's what it is. You need to work with somebody you like. That's probably the most important thing. If you don't like your partner, get rid of the partnership, just dissolve it because it's not worth all that torture. No matter how well it works, if you just don't like each other, you can't work together. That's what I found. What about you, Jamie? What do you think?
Agreed. No. The thing that Benoit and I started with was that relationship. We actually did disc profiles together just so we understood what our communication style was. Learned that we were complementary skill sets. Right? As you mentioned, he's more analytical and I'm not. So it was a good blend between us. And as we talked about our goals and our aspirations and some mindset stuff, there was just a lot of similarity, a lot going on for the 2 of us together that it just became symbiotic. And so far it's been great. We do have an operating.
Yeah, let me put one more point, which I think is really important. What a partnership has allowed me to do is it has allowed me to do what I love to do. And it has allowed Jake to do what he loves to do. Jake loves the property management day to day. I love the education to do day to day. And then we'll feed off and we'll do a little bit of everything else. But when you have a partnership, you can spend time on something that you love to do, which is really cool. I never thought I could do that. I always thought that I have to do all the grinding work, all the stuff that I didn't like. But the partnership has allowed me to gravitate towards what I'm really good at and focus on that.
Love it. Love it. So with that, you mentioned something a second ago that I wanted to get into next. So nice segue. And that is syndication. So you're the king of JV, right? You and Jake have done everything. You own everything, maybe with a money partner behind the scenes. I'm not sure, but you own everything. Now you're talking about syndication. And I would say probably early on in your career, that was something that you weren't really, you thought, why syndicate? We'll just buy deals or whatever. And now you're starting that syndication. So talk to me about that evolution and why now? Why syndication now? Why is it something that you're interested in? Do you regret not doing it sooner?
Yes, and yes, and yes. And the problem is what you don't know, you don't know, right, Jamie? I didn't know in the beginning, right? I was being ignorant. And that's why I tell people you need to get educated. You need to surround yourself with really amazing people and smarter people. When we first started out, I only thought, hey, listen, I'm going to buy deals, me and Jake, and it's fine. And basically, Jake and I bought our first deal with my brother. And then our second deal, we brought on our partner, Mike, who was a stronger balance sheet. He was a hedge fund guy. I'm in the pizzeria. I have pizza sauce on my shirt. He walks in. He's talking about gold and oil, and I just respond back to him. I'm talking about inflation. So he looked at me half cockeyed. That's why you need to be ready, right? The richest man in Babylon says you're ready. I wasn't lucky at that point. I had years of experience, years of training, and I knew what to say to Mike at that time. So I sat down to him. I said, Mike, we're doing deals in Tennessee. The numbers don't work here. You've got a single family home in New Canaan, Connecticut. That's $2 million. You're getting $10,000 a month in rent. Numbers ain't working for you. So on our second deal, he partnered with us. And then, from there up to 1,000 units, it's only been me, Jake, and Mike. We've been buying the deals. We've been able to refi and roll the money. We're up to almost $9 million in refinance proceeds out of our deals. And we're going to do another refi next week for another $600,000. So basically what a refi and roll is, you're buying the property, you're raising that NOI. And when you add additional debt on, we're usually going from a community bank at 25-year amortizations, which is recourse, to non-recourse, the agency, which is a 30-year amortization. Interest rates have been around the same, and you're going to non-recourse debt. So payments do go up sometimes. Sometimes they don't, but sometimes they do. But then you get 3 to 5 years of interest only. And you know what happens with that. It's great. The income has already gone up, so the additional income allows for that debt payment to come on. Now, when I started out, we should have started syndication sooner. I was more of an equity hound. Transactions, pay the bills, equity, can make you rich. My thing was syndication. What's great about syndication, and basically what a syndication is, you're getting a bunch of people together, you're taking their money, you're quote unquote the general partner, you're getting soliciting funds from them with the expectation of them not doing anything, and you're giving them a return. That's probably the simplest way to define a syndication. They're limited partners. Their only recourse in the deal is the deal itself. You know, they lose their 50,000, 100,000. That's all they lose. Us as the general partners in the syndication, we sign on the documents. The beautiful thing about syndication is a lot of the times, most of the time, general partners don't put any money into the deal for the general partner side. They'll put the money on the limited partner side. They'll have to put about 10%. So on our first deal, I always tell my students, think big, but start small. We started with 132 units syndication. It was about a $6 million deal. The LTV was 65% because rents were really low, so we needed to come up with additional money as a down payment. We needed to raise $2.6 million. So for us, it wasn't that bad for our first deal because we had 500 investors on our database. We had Dylan, who we brought on as the partner, to call them up. So you have to cultivate the relationships. Just because they're there, you need to start talking to people, starting to build out the business plan. So I wish I had started syndication sooner. It's only a tool in the toolbox. It's not the only one. You know, there's specific deals that we buy. We bought a deal back in December in-house, Jake, myself, and my partner Mike, because it was 146 units. We bought it for a great price, $26,000 a door. Hard to syndicate though, because the numbers are, it's great. The numbers aren't there to syndicate it because we won't be able to have cash flows for the next 6 to 12 months because we've got to evict people. We've got to clean the units up and get them going. So to syndicate it was a small deal. I mean, I wouldn't syndicate nothing for less than $2 million because there's additional fees going on. You don't want to syndicate something that's really small, but at the same time, when we did our first deal, it was comfortable enough that we were able to raise all that money on that deal. So I wish I had started syndication sooner. I'm not going to lie to you, but you know what? You learn.
Absolutely. I'm curious, what's your exit on the syndication? Are you selling? Are you refinancing out? What is your plan to exit?
Great question. Every deal is different. This first deal, we can't put a supplemental loan on. So we're probably going to have to sell after 3 to 5 years. I don't want to sell. We've done cost segregation on it. I love this deal. We bought it for $45,000 a unit. I think it's going to be worth $60,000 a unit within the next 12 to 18 months. Love to hold it because it's just a cash cow. It's just going to pay us like crazy. The second deal we're closing on in a week from now. We've got 6 years of interest only. We've got a 12-year term on it. That thing we may sell the next 3 to 5 years also, because if we get rents up, you've got great data on that thing, we may be able to flip it over. So it's awesome. It's just depending on every single deal. On that one, we can put a supplemental loan and refinance that second one. So it's really deal specific. I don't like to sell, Jamie. I'm not going to lie to you. That's why syndication is one of those things that we didn't do in the beginning, because a lot of the exit strategies are get those fees up front, make your profit, and then sell and split on the back end. And that wasn't our strategy in the beginning. And I see it. You're giving your investors their money back, then they're going to go into another deal. So it's a tool in the toolbox. And what syndication has allowed me to do also, Jamie, I should point out, it allows you to go bigger. It allows you to go bigger, quicker. It allows you to scale up. You can get those 100 units and start hiring leasing agents, start hiring property managers, and start really building a business. So that's what syndication allows you to do. We didn't need to do that in the beginning. We were fortunate that we had enough funds ourselves, that we refinanced a lot of the funds to buy additional deals. So if you want to start out, get some people together and create that syndication. You got a lot of questions here. You wanna throw these questions that they got here? I see. Can you break down cost segregation? Andrew, cost segregation is way over my pay grade. We have somebody who does it. Basically, what cost segregation is, it's an accelerated cost recovery system. It's a way where you can accelerate your depreciation. But they come in, they do a cost segregation study. It's an engineered study. They'll come in, they'll break things down into 5 years, 7 year, I think, and 15 year, and they'll accelerate the depreciation real quick. You can't depreciate land. So land gets pulled out. So all you're depreciating is the components, whether it's roofs, HVACs, hot water heaters, and you get a really big swell. And what they've done now is they've given bonus depreciation where you can take out in year one, you get all that depreciation. So it's awesome. I mean, it's just a big leverage, big hedge for us as far as, tax benefits are amazing. If you're a real estate professional, you can take all those losses against your income. And I mean, you get an amazing return on your money with cost segregation.
Okay. Yep. Sorry, I am getting a little cut out.
Okay, so you put together operating agreements together for syndication similar to partnerships. So Matt, every single one of our deals, I think we've got 13 or 14 LLCs. every single deal has an operating agreement, because some of our deals might have my brother in them, some of the deals might not. So we want an operating agreement stipulating what the responsibilities are, what management fees are, what's going on. So it's very similar. The ones for syndications, the operating agreements, they tend to be a lot more expensive than regular partnerships. So I would definitely, and I don't want to do a partnership. I'm always doing LLCs. I would never hold anything personally. So everything we do is an LLC, and we have operating agreements for them. Syndication seems a bit too much like a job. Joe, it might if you're doing it by yourself. The problem is, that's what I thought. That's why I had to hire somebody on, and we split our syndication company up 4 ways. Me, my partner Jake, my partner Mike, and Dylan. Now, it's a real company, and we're collecting asset management fees from that company. So as you can see, we have 400 units under management, and you're getting a 1% management fee every month. You can see that's some serious revenue. You've got acquisition fees coming in on the front end, which also pay you. So you're getting a serious business there. And it's something, like I said, you can't do it by yourself. I mean, if you can, you're either Superman or, I don't know, the luckiest guy on the planet, but it is really difficult to do by yourself, do all these jobs by yourself. So, because, you know, you need to call these investors up. You need to set up these webinars. You need to get all this stuff done, but you can do it. You can do it with other people helping you out. So
yeah,
Alfred,
and I think one point real quick on that. I think there are different ways. There are different ways to syndicate as well. Like, you can structure debt up front. You can give a little bit of equity on the back end. You can do different ways. But I see the point from Joe about, I like the equity and control. I think you can still have that within syndication if you structure it in certain ways. So there's many different ways. It's not just 70-30 splits, right? There's other ways to do this. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. But yeah,
no, I agree. So let's think about that for a second. So you're still controlling part of the deal. I mean, if it's a 70-30 split, you as the general partner still controls 30% of the deal. You don't have any money in the deal. I mean, you want to talk about massive leverage. And then on top of that, you as the general partner gets part of that cost segregation write-off, and you don't have any money down in the deal. So for those of you who hate Donald Trump, why do you think he doesn't pay taxes? Because of cost segregation, and because of that. That's the reason why we all have the same ability to use the tax code. It doesn't matter who wrote it. It's written for the rich. The poor can use it also. It's very easy to use. Get a tax specialist. Stop going down to H&R Block, get your taxes done. Get a professional to do your taxes and to help you out. So
I real quick point on that about Trump. Like him or hate him, when he said that, what was it? I'm too smart to pay taxes. I don't know if he's too smart or not, but the
no,
rich
he's not. Let me answer. Let me answer this question for you, Jamie.
This Alfredo question. Do you see that in there, Gino?
Yeah, I'm looking for Alfredo. With such low cap rates in current market, who is buying commercial multifamily? I can't find anything that makes sense with typical down payment of 30%. I'm just trying to understand what's going on in the market. So it depends where you're buying. I mean, sometimes cap rates are, I don't want to say a misnomer, but if you're buying, I had a student who bought a 6-unit property in LA. He bought it an actual 2.8 cap. He paid $930,000 for the property. He put $100,000 into the deal. So he's into it for $1 million. He raised the rents. There was the value add. So he raised it to a 4.8 cap. He sold it for $1.5 million. He made $500,000 in the deal. So it's not what cap rate you're buying at. You have to know where your exit cap is. So he knew that if he can buy it at 2.8, push all the rents up and get it out and at his exit cap, he'd make money. You have to find these deals where there's a component of value add. If you can raise the rents, if you can add rubs, if you can add fees on, if you can lower expenses, that's what you're looking to do. And unfortunately, in this type of market, you're paying a little bit more than what you would normally do. So you really have to find out what the value adds are. If there's no value adds in a deal, you're going to struggle. The other thing is, I think you need to choose a market. Be familiar with, Jamie, I told you, find a market, focus on that market, and really crunch it down and figure out where you're buying in that market. If you don't do that, you're going to be going all over the place and comparing LA to Chattanooga to Nashville to Knoxville to St. Augustine. Those markets are all different. They all have different metrics. So you really need to focus on, what market, you're working on.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
It does, completely. And then we got another question. Could you give a high-level overview of a recent syndication that you put together? How many people? What were the skill sets, et cetera?
So perfect. I mean, the first one we did, it was me and Jake, my partner Mike, and my partner Dylan. There's 4 of us. I don't think you need 4, but you know what? that's just the way it was. We brought Dylan on. Like I said, we had 500 investors. So before the deal goes, the first thing you need to do when you're doing syndication or raising money is you need to start creating relationships yesterday. And if you can't do it yesterday, you got to do it today. Because when you get a deal, if you're doing what they say at 506B, that you can have only sophisticated and accredited, you have to have that relationship before you find the deal. So you need to get out there and you need to start talking to people. So that's what Dylan had to do. Dylan had on the phone for hours and hours. For the first 3 to 4 weeks he was on with us, we were scheduling phone calls. We had people in our database, in our CRM, and all he did was call. Him and Jake went out and started looking at deals. They were driving up to Louisville. They were driving up down to Chattanooga. We found the deal in Louisville. Once the deal was put together, the wonderful thing about Jake and Gino is I already had relationships. I had a syndication attorney, Kim Taylor, who was fantastic. I had an insurance agent. I had brokers. We had a property management company up there that we liked. We were already looking at, leasing agents. So the process was you put the deal down in August. You need to get a timeline moving very quickly because you cannot start collecting funds for your deal into a bank account until you have all of your documents created. Documents are going to take 2 to 3 weeks. That's an operating agreement, a private placement memorandum, a subscription agreement. That's why in your first deal, a syndication might be a little bit more difficult to do because there's some more moving parts. It's not impossible. I've had students who've done a syndication on the first deal. So for us, we got those documents ready. Then the next thing was we had to start creating webinars and start sending out emails. So Dylan and I worked on the webinars. In this economy, you need to be transparent, number one, and you need to be giving to getting. That's what I said. So for us, it was easy. You want to invest with us? We're going to give you 12 webinars after the deal's done. We're going to teach you about this process. So that's what our investors have gotten. We were just on a webinar 2 hours ago at 6 o'clock. We had our 5th webinar, our 5th month of the deal. We've been giving them updates every month. So that process, everyone was on board. We got the deal. We got the deal in August. We got the contract written out. As soon as we got the contract, we had to go through due diligence. Like I said, we did all the leases. We did all the due diligence. We did all the money raising, and it was fun. Actually, it was a lot of fun the first time. It wasn't as stressful as I thought because we had a great syndication attorney and we had a lot of guys helping out, and it really made it a lot easier. So it moves. It just moves quick. You just have to get ready and you have to have. People say, should I get a deal first and then look for the money, or should I have the money and then get the deal? I would say start creating a case study, creating a credibility book like I taught you, Jamie. Get your business plan out there and just start meeting people for coffee. Go out, drink some coffee, and let them know what you're doing. I'm offering an opportunity. I'm getting into real estate. I want to, take some deals down. Would you like to hear what we're doing? And have the whole model given out. We give an 8% preferred rate of return. We like to hold these deals 3 to 7 years. So give them a timeline. We are in affordable housing. We like to look at 100 units plus. We like to look in the Southeast because of the tenant laws and because we're vertically integrated. We property manage. So give them the whole story. Get to know them, create that substantive relationship, and then all of a sudden create a meetup. This is what Jamie's doing. Get people on the call and start sharing with what you're learning. Get them excited. Why multifamily? Well, listen, multifamily is a hard asset. People need a place to live. 36% of the population in the United States is renting as opposed to 31% 10 years ago. The affordable housing crisis is real. When people lose their jobs, what are they going to do? They're not going to buy homes. They're going to rent. The millennials have too much student debt to buy homes. The baby boomers are getting out of their homes, buying RVs or renting. So the demographics is there for multifamily. You want to be in the stock market? You want to go that crazy run where all of a sudden Trump does something stupid and the stock market loses 2,000 points? You have no control. With our asset, you have control. And so that's how you start the process of syndication and how you start raising money,
Yep, no, absolutely. So we've got a question about exit strategies. They've always heard about more than one exit strategy, but can you elaborate on what that might mean? What do exit strategies look like?
I mean, an exit strategy to us, we haven't exited yet. So we're actually looking to exit a deal right now. I mean, when you're buying something, the whole thing is, like you mentioned, it's the buy right, the manage right, and the finance right. If you buy it wrong, your exit strategy is going to be a lot longer. Now, how do I know that? Back in 2006, I bought a deal up in New York. Why did I buy it wrong? I didn't buy it wrong because of the end of the cycle, although that was it. The demographics stunk. The market stunk. The rent growth was terrible. The tenants were terrible. And I paid because I didn't know all that. So my exit was exit and sell it for a loss. Best thing I ever did. Lost a ton of money, but I learned so much about it. So when you're talking about an exit strategy, when you're buying a deal, like Jake and I on our first deal, we had really no exit strategy. Our strategy was, let's buy this. Let's run this. Let's make this our little cash cow, a golden goose that's laying golden eggs. And if we can refinance the property, Let's refinance the property, pull the money out of the deal. We have no more money left in this deal. Repurpose that money we took, and let's go buy another deal. And let's rinse and repeat. That's what our strategy is. We've cost segregated that deal. It's given us a loss on paper, and then just continue to do that. Now, you need to look at every deal you're looking at, because some deals are not long-term holds. Some deals you can buy, you can reposition them, and then you can flip them depending on what you need. Do you need cash to get into another deal? If you're syndicating a deal, one of the benefits is after you've held it for 3 years, you split it, you sell it, you make a profit. You normally split those proceeds, whether it's 70% to the limited partners and 30% to yourself. So you can get a really nice payday, get that money. It is a taxable event unless you 1031 it, and then you can get that money and put that into another deal. Is that your strategy? It all depends upon what you're looking to do. I'm still young. I'm still generational. I still want to control that. What I might end up doing is maybe selling some of those C minus assets and going into the better asset classes, maybe the B minus, B plus assets. Not yet. We love the space that we're in. We're buying some assets that are a little bit newer, but I think exit strategy really focuses on each individual asset and each individual investors. As you were talking about the partners, it's really important. Jake and I, we don't want to sell. We don't want to fix and flip. We want to buy and hold these things. So make sure that you're on the same page with your partner. That's what your goals are. That's what our goals were. That's what our goals with Mike and Dylan are. We're here to build a business, a long-term business that's going to pay us and continue to create wealth for us. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. Completely. I do have one side question before we get to this one. You talked about refi. What's the typical seasoning period that you go from the time that you finish your repositioning, you've got rents where you want them and all of that stuff, leases in place, to the point at which you refi into agency debt or like you call it before, non-recourse debt? What's that timeline? Is it a year? Is it 6 months? Does it depend? What does that look like?
The question is really, it depends, because it depends on how many units you have, depends how long. They want at least 3 to 6 months of seasoning. Once you've turned the asset over, they're going to want at least 3 to 6 months of stabilized income. When you're buying a property, 90% for 90 days is a stabilized property. You cannot get Fannie or Freddie financing agency if it's not 90% for 90 days. You're either going to have to go with community or bridge. So take that into consideration. They're going to want to see, and you know, it's funny, when people are looking to underwrite a property, go to your community bank or go to an agency debt or a broker. They will know what the expenses are on a property. That's a tip right there of the call. If you're underwriting a deal, most new investors always underwrite deals with lower expenses. If you don't know the expenses in the market, go to a community banker or go to a mortgage broker who's underwriting these deals in that market, and they will tell you what the expenses are per unit. But normally 6 or 12 months, it depends on how quickly you can really turn out those units. If you've got a 30-unit property and you can turn 2 units a month, and you've got to turn all 30, at the end of the year it's turned, you're probably going to wait another 6 months to get that thing seasoned to flip it into a refi.
That makes sense. That's a great point. I love the tip as well. That's excellent. There's a question about what do you look for in a syndication attorney or accountant, but what's your criteria? You know, how did you find
syndication attorney? It's funny. We found her. She presented at our live event last year. I think she's awesome. I mean, she's done work for other gurus. She really knows her stuff. Don't cheap out on it. I'm going to be honest with you. She charges $15,000. It's not cheap. Yeah. It's not expensive. Some guys are in the 20s, but she really knows her stuff. She'll get on a call. She got on a call. She walked us through. I mean, it was baby steps for us because we had no idea. We didn't know how to structure it. I learned syndication through our podcast. So that's basically how I learned it, to be honest with you. So she really walked us through a lot. I mean, it was great. She walked us through a lot. And for us, it was awesome. So if anybody wants an introduction to her, just send me an email at gino@jakeandgino.com. I'll just put the two of you together, and you guys take it from there. But you'll thought she's really professional. She's done hundreds of these things. She sets up operating agreements. She does it all. So I would definitely, not my forte, not Jake's forte. We're not paper guys. So just leave it to the professionals, and you'll be happy. And anyway, your investors are going to pay for that. So it's going to be picked up by the investors. You got to put the money up front, but you're going to get compensated on the back end from your investors.
Gino, or no?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Go ahead, say that again.
No, I was going to say, yeah, we found our syndication attorney, 13,000 to your point, 15,000, 13,000.
Wow. Yeah.
Fund. And yeah, credible, sent us a whole bunch of PPMs that he had put together, private placement memorandums, to show the evidence of what he's done in the past. He's got some big clients that are nationally known and everything. So yeah,
that's great. Agree with you. That's excellent. Yes. Get referrals. That's exactly. Get a referral from somebody that they've done work with. Yes, I agree. Great point.
Looks like Dave wants to buy one of yours. So he's asking, what are you looking to sell and how many units is it?
We've got a housing assistance program. I'm not a big government guy. It's a HAP contract. It's a nightmare. It's 24 units. It's actually, the income's not bad, but when you deal with housing assistance, it's sort of part of HUD. It's just, we want to get rid of that. And there's another 16-unit property. It's just a little small property where we want to get rid of the 8 of those units and just pay the other 8 off. So I mean, they're at low caps, or 6.5 caps. They're for people who just want some stabilized cash coming in. There's a little value add on there, but it's appreciated tremendously. So that's what you're talking about, the exit strategy. I'm always looking at return on equity, basically. So when you're looking at a return on equity, it's a different metric than looking at cash on cash, because we've built up so much equity in these properties and some of these that you're thinking, oh, I'm only making the money cash you invested, but all that additional equity that you've built up, if the market corrects or crashes, you lose that, right? So that's a scary thing. So you always got to keep that in consideration. Once you've cashed out, what equity's in there and how much of a return are you getting on that? So on this property, we bought it for $37,000 a unit. It's worth $70,000 a unit. It's only 16 units, but that's $30,000 a door. I mean, you're talking about a lot of money with a little debt on it. So there comes a point that everything's for sale at the right price, and if you can find the right buyer. So that's how you have to weigh part of the exit strategy. We didn't go into it thinking that we're going to sell, but there comes a point where, you know, you're getting $3,000 a month in a monthly draw maybe, but you've got 700 grand or 600 grand in equity. It doesn't make sense. That return is not good. You're better off buying, selling that property. If you can 1031 it and buy a bigger deal with that, that's a smarter thing to do. Or else you just take the capital gains hit and you repurpose that into a bigger asset.
Excellent. Yeah. So we've only left you about 10 minutes for the last part of this, which is to talk about that first deal that you went through. So maybe you can give us the overview, the lessons you learned, kind of what's the property and what lessons you learned on that, if you could, and we'll get questions on it.
Yeah. We don't need a PowerPoint. That's great. I mean, the first deal that I learned was it took us 18 months to get our first deal. All right. You guys did a lot quicker than we did. And I don't know, this market is hotter now. This market's harder to find deals. For Jake and I, it was 2 Italians in Tennessee, and y'all ain't going to do business down here. And we were looking at the wrong deals. We weren't networking with brokers properly. I learned a lot on that first deal. The first thing I learned was you need to focus on the market and really learn your market. The next thing I learned is you need to build a team in that market. We were fortunate because we found something on LoopNet. It was priced at $750,000. We offered $600 ultimately, and we got the deal for $600. But we had an amazing broker relationship that we made, and it was awesome. And what we found with the broker was seller financing. He taught us about seller financing, and he actually pitched it to the sellers. So we were able to buy that first deal at $600. It came off a LoopNet. It was sitting on there for a couple of years. It was a motivated seller. It was your typical Jamie mom and pop that you guys have. That's how we came up with the thing. They were burned out. And the thing is, they put it on the market. They was on there too long. They just wanted to sell. And we weren't tough with them. We just said, this is what we can pay. And we probably paid 50 grand too much, but that's okay because now it's, it's escalated. But it was a rough property, the first one. It was 25 units. It was cottages. It was duplexes. We had a 6-unit efficiency, and it was weekly renters. So we know the couple of value adds where weekly renters pay more, but it was just awful. The seller terms. So the seller terms were we had 10% down as a down payment from us and 10% owner financing. We had to come up with $83,000 with closing costs. So me and my brother and Jake split that a third each. It was a $600,000 purchase. So 10% is $60,000 plus. So the $60,000 note, we actually still have it because we've actually extended it. It was great. So the note, the original terms sucked. And I always teach my students, we got a 20-year AM, we got a 6% interest rate, and we got a 20-year AM, 6% interest rate, and a 5-year term. That was from the bank. And then from the seller, we got a 6% interest rate. We got a 7-year term, and we got a 25-year AM. We got better from the seller. The reason why we went with that bank was because the bank held a note, and they were just like, yeah, we'll do seller financing, but we didn't know. We didn't know to ask. We didn't know that everything in real estate and in life is negotiable. So that's what I tell my students. Don't get the 20-year AM from the bank. Push for the 25-year. Push for the year of interest only. Community banks will give you a year of IO. Why not ask for it? What's the worst thing that they can say? So then what happened, what ended up doing was we ended up refining that property 3 years ago. We got a 7-year term on it. We got a 4.25% interest rate. We were able to cash out $165,000 on the deal, and we were able to keep our payment the same because it went from 6% to 4.25%, and it went from a 20-year AM up to a 25-year AM. So the mortgage payment is the same. That's when you make a mistake. Sometimes mistakes are great, right? If we hadn't bought that first property, made that mistake, and learned from that mistake, because on our second deal we got even worse terms. 3 months after that, we got a 3-year term. And we got a 20-year AM. So that sucked even more. We refied out of that. into community. And then ultimately that one we went to agency. But to start out with, a lot of learning mistakes. Don't go with weekly renters, because a weekly renter is a terrible tenant, although they pay more. There's a lot of turnover. So it took us about good 8 to 12 months to cycle all those tenants out. We actually had to do a lot of deferred maintenance. It was very management intensive. For our first deal, it was awesome. We learned a lot of value adds. They were paying for cable, they were paying for water and utilities, so their expenses were really bloated. We cut the expenses down. Income didn't go up that much, but by the time you save $1 of expenses, it goes to $1 net operating income. So we actually did really well with the property, and we still own it today. And that's one of those things. It's a small property. Should we sell it? I mean, it's still printing money. It's still printing $3,000 a month for us. It's not that much work. It's next to our other property, so it's not as management intensive. So it's part of an office. So that's why we keep it. If it was out in the woods, 35, 40 minutes away, we probably would sell it, but it's very close to the office, so it's very easy for us to manage.
So there's, you mentioned a lot of lessons from that first property, and there's a lot of people that are either on their first property or looking for their first property. What would be the top 2-3 things you would say, like, the top lesson, like, here's what you don't do, or here's what you do. You mentioned everything's negotiable, buy right, sell right. But what would you say is like the number one thing for that new buyer that's about to buy a property?
Wow. So a thing that sticks out to me was we didn't have a team built out. I said that already, but when we had the property, we barely had the inspector. I wish I had somebody who was a contractor who could have said to us, hey, you know what, guys? I'm not sure about these septic fields. Maybe we should put a little money into escrow, because 6 months later they failed. So it was in the wintertime, so we didn't even think about that. The due diligence process, we could have worked it out a little bit better, and we teach our students what the due diligence process is. It's daunting at first. In the very first property, we had an inspector, and Jake and myself go out there. What the hell do we know on our first deal? We didn't even have a good contractor come out with us, because that broker was not working for us. On our second deal, all of a sudden we had more teams. We had a contractor come out with us. We had some problems with the foundation. We had some problems with some roofs and some structural stuff. It was easier because we had a team. So build a team out. And now today, on our due diligence process, we've evolved to the point that we have a CapEx crew go out with us. We have the inspector go out with us. We have our plumbing team go out with us. We have an HVAC go out with us. We scope the lines ourselves. So we've grown into that. You don't need to do that on your first or second deal. That will evolve. But really, when you work on it, try to get a really good inspector. Try to have him go into every single unit, and then really try to pull the trigger. Take action. You really got to take action. Don't be afraid. If you find something wrong in the report, take the pictures, go back, be fair. And we went back to her. She changed a couple of roofs, and she did a little bit of painting for us because we didn't have the guys. We're like, can you fix it for us? And she said, sure, because she was burned out. She was motivated. She just wanted to sell. So, build that team. I think that's one of the most important things.
Left here. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I chopped up a little bit on my end, but a couple minutes left. I want to get you to talk a little bit about like how can people get in touch with you, your website, all the thing, and talk to a little bit about the academy that you put together, the Wheelbarrow Profits Academy.
Really simple. Just go on jakeandgino.com. We have the podcast Wheelbarrow Profits. We've got students doing deals, 1 or 2 or 3 a week. So what we're going to do is we're going to start creating a podcast called Movers and Shakers. And you guys are going to be on the podcast also, because we want to highlight all the students and everyone that their success. Because what I found is if you can create an environment that is conducive to people wanting to do business and sharing resources. Everyone thinks the pie is small. That scarcity mindset. I found that the pie is abundant, and there's so many deals out there. There's so much money out there. There's so many people that can partner and share. So to create that environment with Jake and Gino, I've done that. To be able to identify as a multifamily investor in a group is what's going to lead to a person's success ultimately. I didn't succeed until I said to myself, I'm taking the chef coat off, and I'm going to think of myself as an investor, as a multifamily investor. Once I did that, everything in my life changed. And I'm not making that up. That's the God's honest truth. It was just an epiphany for me, because I burned the ships. I'm not that guy anymore. I'm this guy now. So the Jake and Gino community allows that. I mean, there's a lot of people on there networking. You guys met on there. That's what I love more than anything else. When you can meet like-minded people and you can work together and you can share resources. Now, if somebody is investing in Chattanooga and they need a resource, they'll go on the private Facebook group, say, hey, any brokers out there? That's a big advantage. I mean, just by learning the education. And it's important when you're doing your first or second deal, there's a lot of things that you don't know. And you know what? If you can shorten that learning curve and save that money, if I can put you in touch with our cost segregation specialist, he can save you 30 grand on a cost seg study, or I put you in touch with our insurance broker and he can cut down commissions for $2 grand a year on your deals. I mean, that's the power of the education, the environment. I mean, if you've been to the live event, you know what I'm talking about. Everyone needs to go to live events. Everyone needs to go out and see what's going on, meet the people, because it's not a really big arena, to be honest with you. You'll start seeing the same people at the same events. You'll start networking. You'll start getting out there. You'll be surrounded by people you like and people you want to do business with. It'll change your life. So network. That's my mantra.
It's funny, the guy coming up after you. So for those of you that are on this webinar, we have a nice doubleheader. Phil Capron is going to do his normal Wednesday night call. It's usually deal discussion, but tonight he's got John Brickson from Old Capital Lending going to talk to you about financing and everything. So stay right here, and I'll get Phil up as a panelist. I'll figure all that stuff out, and John, and they can take it after we hang up with Gino here. But Phil and I were talking about that earlier today. It's such a small community. It feels like there's so much there, but I find myself when I join different groups, I got like 200 people in the group. I have 170 of them that are my friends, and in Facebook, because we're all in this same community. It's so small. And your point about changing your life, I'll say this as we close out. Meeting you changed mine, because again, without you in the community, I wouldn't have met Ben. I wouldn't have had the ability to purchase the first property we did. We're under contract on another, and with the value that you bring beyond just entering this, like, yes, I'm in your community. I paid to be in that community, but then, you had me down in Jacksonville at your home. You're putting me on a podcast, which that would be fantastic. I'm honored if you decide to do that. I'll drag Ben out of his basement and
I will do that. And that's important, right? It's important that people pay for their education, because when you pay for something, you value it. And it's not a payment. You're investing in yourself. And that's something that when you put into, and that's what I do with life coaching. I've done 2 different real estate coaching programs also. I credit that for my success also. So be willing to invest in yourself. It's all about shifting your mind, right? You're not paying for something. You're investing in your future. So it's important. The event that we have this year is in October 19th and 20th at the Gaylord Palms. You can go on our website. You'll see it, 2019 live event. It's a great place. I mean, it's not a pitch fest at all. This is really to get all the people out there, to show our vendors, to show our team's going to be out there. It's all about buy right, manage right, and finance right. So we're going to be teaching all about that. Guys, I can keep going on. So this has been a lot of fun. I just want to thank you for having me on. As you can tell, I can talk about real estate all day, because there's so many different facets of real estate. You don't only have to buy for yourself. You can create a business and do what you like ultimately. So don't think about, I don't have the money. The money's not the problem. It's really in here that's the problem, because the sky's the limit. You can start raising money. You can do no money down deals. There's so many different ways of getting into multifamily. So, but if you don't know, you don't know. So time to get educated, right?
No, man, yes, agreed completely. I agree with investing in your education. My life changed when I started to do that, and always thought, I'm not going to throw money at this stuff in the past. But man, between this and other things that I've done for myself, it's been transformational. And you were the beginning of that for me. So not to get too sappy with you here, but I can't tell you how much I appreciate tonight. I can't tell you how much I appreciate what you've created. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate all that you've poured into me and others in this academy. You are truly probably one of the most giving people I've ever met in my entire life. And look, man, you've made it. You don't need to do this stuff, right? You're financially free. You've got a beautiful family and plenty of things to do. And here you are, 9 o'clock at night on a Wednesday night, hanging out with me and these guys.
That's what financial freedom allows you to do. That's why I want everyone on this call to become financially free, because then they can ultimately start living their lives and loving what they do. If you want, get questions from all your participants. I will jump on another call in the next couple of months. We could do another webinar just on questions that they have. I'd love to do that for you. So if you want to do that,
that's great.
And let all the participants send in questions to you. We'll build something out in the next 3 months. We'll jump on something else. Okay.
That's a hell of an offer. I'll take you up on that. So everybody heard that. If anybody has questions, and I'll post in the Facebook groups as well, I'll get them all. And then, Gina, maybe we could set something up.
Got some great guys on here. Mike Constantis, Neil Shope, Jason Pearson. I got all the Jake Grant Warrington. I got a lot of Jake and Gino guys on here. So I love talking to my boys. May 16th, I'm going to be up in New York City. Mobile Home Park meetup. Everyone up there, come on up. May 16th, New York City. So make sure you're there. It's going to be a great time. So my last words of the night, Jamie and Benoit, I really appreciate you guys having me on. Thanks a lot. I really do appreciate it. It's great.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Say hi to the family. Thank you so much for coming on today.
I will. Thanks. Take care, everybody. Have a great night.